Okay, can't ever live my best life. So, as where was I? 4. Take heed every one of his neighbor, and trust ye not in any brother, for every brother will utterly supplant, and every neighbor will walk with slanders. And they will deceive every one of his neighbor, and will not speak the truth. They have taught their tongue to speak lies, and weary themselves to commit iniquity. Thine habitation is in the midst of deceit. Through deceit they refuse to know me, saith Yahuwah. Therefore thus says the Yahuwah of hosts, Behold, I will melt them and try them, for how shall I do for the daughters of my people? Their tongue is as an arrow shot out. It speaketh deceit. One speaketh peaceably to his neighbor with his mouth, but his heart he layeth wait. Shall I not visit them for these things? Saith Yahuwah. Shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation as this? For the mountains will I take up a weeping and wailing, and for the habitations of the wilderness a lamentation, because they are burned up, so that none can pass through them. Neither can men hear the voice of the cattle. Both the fowl of the heavens and the beasts are fled, they are gone. And I will make Jerusalem heaps and dens of dragons, and I will make the cities of Judah desolate, without an habitation. Who is the wise man that may understand this? And who is he to whom the mouth of Yahuwah hath spoken, that he may declare it? For what the land perishes is burned up like a wilderness, that none passeth through. And Yahuwah said, Because they have forsaken my law, which I set before them, and have not obeyed my voice, neither walked therein, but have walked after the imagination of their own heart, and after Balaam, after their fathers taught them. Gossiping it's a acquired taste and a trait too. And this goes on, this is on so many levels of everything else, because we know that their fathers taught them to worship idols, and they have walked away from Yah. And I'm going to keep going. Therefore, thus says Yahuwah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, behold, I will feed them, even this people, with wormwood, and give their water of gall to drink. Give them water of gall. I will scatter them also among the heathen, whom neither they nor their fathers have known, and I will send a sword after them, till I have consumed them. Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts. So what I'm telling, I carried on a little further, but I wanted to get that whole thing into context. A supplanter trips up a person. So we see that supplanting and gossip, it can trip people up, because then you get so consumed with what's going on here, or you're so offended by what has happened or what was said about another person, it trips you up. It keeps you out of circles. It keeps women from being communal and learning one with another, because again, it trips you up. It stops you because you think that everybody is like these people that you've already experienced. And again, when we come out of Babylon, we should be coming into a safe place, somewhere where we can commune one with another, right? A supplanter. Genesis 27:36 talks about Yaakov, or Jacob, being a supplanter until Yah changed his name. His name, Jacob, meant supplanter. He was born, came out holding his brother heel. A supplanter literally means, you'll see this in your Hebrew Strong, the word is akab. It's in your Hebrew Strong 6117, tripping up. Gossip trips you up. Whispering, supplanting, trips you up. Planting seeds, it trips a person up. It literally means, the root word is akeb, and you'll see that in your Hebrew Strong 6119, is like grabbing the rear of the heel, preventing you from elevating. Gossip prevents us from elevating because it trips you up. Also, you in your Hebrew Strong 6120, a liar in wait, crouching. A gossiper, a whisperer, is crouching, waiting for the person that whose ear they can whisper in. Waiting. And it's we've seen this in the word. Let me see that. trying to find the scripture. It says, this is what Yahuwah said to Cain. He says, if you do what's right, will it not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is waiting and crouching at your door to desire you. But you must rule over it. Sin's desire is to have you. But we've been given dominion, so we're supposed to master sin, not sin master us. So a supplanter is someone who's waiting and crouching and waiting to catch you up. And we see this, the positive charge in this. We see where Jacob, his name was changed to Israel after he began to follow Yah and stop manipulating the order. Because if you don't know the story was 2 nations were in Rebekah's womb. It had been prophesied that the younger would rule over the older one, the older twin, Esau. And instead, Jacob acted in his nature and his own fallenness to supplant his brother, or to trip him up and cause him to give him his birthright. But in all actuality, it had already been prophesied that the birthright belonged to him, because Jacob was after the spiritual things and Esau wasn't. Okay, he despised his birthright. Supplanter. So we're dealing with the supplanting. As we were dealing with Hasatan and the lies, and this is again the character, the root of gossip. The root of gossip is pride, false omnipotence. We want to know something. We want to control the narrative. We want to elevate ourselves and not wait for Yah to elevate us, okay? The word lakash, whisperer. To mumble a spell or a charmer. Gossiping is like witchcraft. A lot of us don't want to be associated with witchcraft and being deceptive and deceiving, but it is. We'll see this in our Hebrew Strong, the word lakash, in your Hebrew Strong's 3907, and the word is spelled Lachashash, and in the Hebrew it is Lamet Het Shin. To control, separate, destruction. We know that Lamet is staff, goad, control, toward. So to control or to move something toward separation, for destruction. Lakash, to mumble. Literally. Control, to separate, control the narrative, to separate someone towards destruction. Lakash. We'll look at this. We're going to finish this out, and then I'll show you where you've seen lakash. And if you change one letter in front of the other one, we'll see what we get, okay? So Psalms 58:5. I'm going to go to 58:4. Just go down one. Their venom is like the venom of a snake, like that of a cobra that has stopped its ears. That will not heed the tune of the charmer, however skillful the enchanter may be. Oh, Yah, shatter their teeth in their mouths. Oh, Yah, tear out the fangs of the lions. A whisperer. Charmer. Control, right? Control or separate to destruction. Person who whispers is separating and wanting to control the narrative, or move something in the direction that they want it to go. A lot of times whisperers whisper and divide, right? Separate, wall fence separation. You'll see that a lot too, where you'll see someone who gossips, but they will use the gossip to separate a person so that they can have their ear, so they can control the narrative, so they can control the person's attitude, behavior, pride. That is like witchcraft, an enchanter, an enchantress. 2 Samuel 12:19. We see again, like I said, conceal privy information from someone to control the outcome against. I don't even know what I just wrote. To give or create a narrative, like the news. It takes a little bit out and adds a little bit more, or the news will show a clip of someone behaving really ignorantly, but they won't show that this person was provoked or what happened to this person that caused it. They'll only show the outcome, they'll only show the reaction and not the action that caused this event. This is what somebody who lakashes, you see that again in the news. They mumble, whisper, charm, cast a spell. Let's look at 2 Samuel. Twelve, 19. And we'll see here in this particular instance where David's son had passed away, and his attendants or the people in his house were whispering to conceal information from him. But it caused him to veer in closer, right? And that's usually what whispering does. Causes you to veer in closer, your little itching ear to listen. In this instance, they were trying to protect him, but he knew what was going on already, right? David noticed that his attendants were whispering amongst themselves, and he realized that the child was dead. Is the child dead? He asked. Yes, they replied, he is dead. Then David got up from the ground after he had washed, put on lotions, and changed his clothes, and then he went into the house of Yah and he worshipped. That was when him and Bathsheba had their first child, and the baby didn't make it, right? And it was after a whole lot of other colorful things that happened that had led to this. And he went and he worshiped. And he knew that he said, while the child was still alive, I fasted and wept. I thought, who knows? Yahuwah may be gracious to me and let the child live. But now that he is dead, why should I go on fasting? Can I bring him back? I will go to him, but he will not return to me. We see the next word, like I said, you remove one letter in front of Lakash and you put the N, Nakash, and you'll see the snake and what he did in the garden, right? Hebrew Strong's 5175. So Nakash is another word for that, Nakash comes from Nakash, the root word. Nakash is the snake, or from its hiss, the whispering or the sound, and is whispering a magic spell. Nakash, you'll see again the Hebrew Strong's 5175, and then Nakash you'll see the hiss or whisper 5172. To hiss or to whisper a magic spell. To learn by experience, the diligent observer. Nakash, the snake was whispering, he was watching very, very intently. Watched Adam and Shua. And he waited until what? She was separated from her covering, her husband. And he whispered to her. He cast a spell, the enchanting of the serpent. So this is again the character and this is the root of gossip. The root of gossip, we see it. I'm painting this picture because we see again, it is slandering, talebearing, scandal, travel for trading, to perverse or to forward, to be perverse or forward, angry. Because again, at the root of gossip, there's malice. There is no good intention when you are whispering about someone, because we'll see as I continue on to this lesson, Yah has a recipe for how we're to deal one with another. So we've dealt with talebearing, whispering, Nakash, Nergan, Tapuka, Rakil, the supplanter, Akab. And we see how, in the comparing and the contrasting, how love covers, right? And hate, or the negative charge of gossiping, or what gossip does. It basically reveals malice in your heart and hate. You can't say people say that all the time. Yah knows my heart. He knows my heart. He does. It's deceitful and desperately wicked above anything else. And out of the abundance of our mouths, our hearts speak. Our actions, we show forth what's inside of us based on the actions that take place. So we'll look at some things that Yah says about love, because in this walk in the community, we're supposed to love one another. And to be in community, we have to rid and purge and continually purge ourselves from the things that look like the world. 1 Peter 4 and 8. Proverbs 17 and 9. This is what love does. It covers a multitude of sin, right? James 5 and 20. Galatians 6 and 1. Matthew 18, 15 through 17. And Ezekiel 3, 18 through 19. I want to read Ezekiel. This is when telling something is done in love. When I say to a wicked person, you will surely die, and you do not warn them or speak out to dissuade them from their evil ways in order to save their life, that wicked person will die for their sin, and I will hold you accountable for their blood. There's times when things should be spoken out against. When if somebody talking about killing me, it's not gossip if you tell me. If someone is devising a wicked plan against me or scheme, it's not gossip if you tell me. You're saving my life. This is something done in love, right? But in the negative, we see that, we'll look at Ephesians 5, 11 and 12. By all means, tell me if somebody's trying to kill me. No. But the word says, in the negative light, have nothing to do with fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. It is shameful to even mention what the disobedient do in secret. Excuse me. When there's hate involved, you reveal it. You rebuke a situation. I don't want anything to do with this situation. Love, again, like I said, covers. But when things are negative, you should hate what is negative, and there should be an action taken towards it. You should not participate in the negativity. Because, again, there's no way to play in the mud and not get dirty. The evidence will end up shown. What's done in the dark usually does come to the light. Psalms 94:16. Who will rise up for me against the wicked? Who will take a stand for me against evildoers? Again, when there's negative things taking place, then someone should stand up and take a stand. Matthew 18:15, I believe, 15 through 17. This is what love does. If your brother or sister, instead of gossiping, right? If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their faults just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. If they listen to you, you have won them over, right? But a brother offended is harder to be won. If you go and you start gossiping about him, then these are the other steps. But if they will not listen, take one or two others along with you, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. Not false witnesses, not people that like to gossip and slander, others that are going to come and they're accountability partners, and they're out of love for the brethren, and they don't want to see the brethren stumble. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. If they refuse to listen, even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. And that means, what do you do with a pagan? You have nothing to do with them. You don't participate in their festivities. You don't eat their delectables, and you don't do what they do. You remove yourself. And this is how we deal one with another, in love. Again, negative things need to be exposed. James 4:4. This is what gossip is, and participating in it. It says, you adulterous people, don't you know that friendship with the world means enmity against Yah? Therefore, anyone who chooses to be friends of the world becomes an enemy of Yah. When you participate with or in the things that aren't of the kingdom, you were in opposition. So we want to really, really, really think long and hard about the things and the people that we gravitate to. It's not that you are better than, but we are set apart. We are called out of darkness into the marvelous light, to continue to keep living as peasants when we aren't royalty. We're royalty, right? Yah loves us so much. And again, like I said, the order of operation shouldn't be manipulated. We need to learn how to love him, honor him, how to love and interact with one another, and then how to edify and to build up this community. This community that says we are been set apart to follow the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. Not to look like everybody else. Not to cause, have these discussions and these hang-ups over things that aren't even a part of. We so busy trying to figure out whether a person should wrap their head or should do A, B, and C, but we don't understand how to deal one with another. So we are harsh with one another. We are gossipy about one another, and we haven't sat down to take out the time to learn and to glean and to understand this word, so we could come together and act on to operate on one accord. Yah is forward with his own resources he provides. He loves us. He reveals his dealings to us. There's a great reward for trusting Yah. Great reward, great reward. You'll see that in Genesis 3:21. For Yah so loved the world, he gave. Something innocent in the garden had to die. in the place of our sin. So just as when we have fallen into sins, or if there is something we know about another, love will cover. Love will cover so that we can commune. That's what Yah did. He covered us in the garden so that we could continue to commune with him. Even though ultimately they were removed from the garden, which was still an act of love and mercy. We said that we're living sacrifices. Then we have to sacrifice the desire to partake in certain things. Excuse me. Romans 12:1 says we are living sacrifices, holy and acceptable. It is our reasonable service to let go of some things when we come in. When we look at how, again, in the comparing and contrasting in the negative, how gossip does us, or how the whispering of the Nakash Hasatan leaves you to foot the bill. He only has dominion over what we already gave him dominion over. We gave up our dominion when we listened to him the first time. And we do that in our walk too. We give up our position. We kill our witness when we engage or entangle ourselves in things that have nothing to do with kingdom business. And eventually the things that he has been given dominion over will be removed for him. And then there will be a following. He meets the same end as those who he causes, as the same ones that he causes to stumble. Genesis 3:4, the big lie, you will not surely die. Nakash, with experience, Eve had to learn a hard lesson, a real hard one. Genesis 3:23, ultimately removed from the garden, and then her son took place in the first murder. Another way we deal with the supplanter, or Nakash, or evil, or tripping up. Was that the right one? We'll see this in 2 Kings 17. Sorry. Here we go. I'm sorry. Don't do 2 Kings 17. Here we go. The word accuser. Also, when we gossip, we're acting as the accuser. You know, you get mad at somebody, call you the devil, or call you a hellhound, or you're acting like a bull in the china shop. You run around here breaking up stuff, causing chaos and mayhem, and we wrapped in tassels and heads, garbs and clothes, but we behaving like the accuser. This is, again, something we need to really get on one accord with. How do we deal one with another? How do we deal in community? How does gossip destroy us and our women as a community? We are communal people, and when we travel, I know when I travel and when we go and we meet up, it is such a joy, it's such a breath of fresh air to see the people that come out and are ready to worship and praise and interact one with another. And they come with pure hearts and intentions, most of them. And then again, when you begin to, when we begin to get together a lot, some old habits die hard. We have to learn to cut it off at the root. Cut off the bad behaviors. Learn to love and minister one to another. And do that where a person can live in free and not in fear of being exposed, but being covered in love. It's diabolical. The word in the Greek is diablos, but it is the accuser. And the accuser in your Hebrew Strong 7854 is Satan. He is your opponent, your arch enemy. When you gossip, you are you are acting as an arch enemy and an opponent to the community of Yah. You are in opposition. And you see it is taking on the characteristics. You're taking on the characteristics of the accuser when you gossip. And you'll see that in 1 Kings 11. These women tripped him up. They were his opponents. They turned his heart away. These were his adversaries. So the adversaries, we know the adversaries or the opponents of Yah's people were these people. So Solomon, however, loved many foreign women besides Pharaoh's daughter. Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites. They were from nations about which Yahuwah had told the Israelites, you must not intermarry with them, because they will surely turn your hearts after their elves. Nevertheless, Solomon held fast to love them. He held fast. He had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines, and his wives led him astray. See that? They led him astray. He did evil in the eyes of Yah. He didn't follow after his father. And Yah became angry because his heart had turned away. These people acted as arch enemies. They stood in the place. They tripped him up. First Chronicles 21. I know this is long. I'm just trying to get it all out. And look at what it says. The accuser, or Hasatan, rose up against Israel and incited David. Whispered, right? To take a census of Israel. So David said to Joab and the commanders of the troop, go and count the Israelites from Beersheba to Dan, then report back to me so that I may know how many are there. We know that Yah fights for us, right? He says, there's a scripture that says, you trust in horses and chariots, we trust in the name of Yahuwah. Yah had been fighting for Israel. And we weren't supposed to number your military might, because we knew that Yah fought. We saw what he did with Gideon. We saw what he had been doing. He did for David. He had did that with the Philistine, with the giant, with Goliath. And it said Satan rose up against Israel. So he acted as an opponent. The enemy rose up, and David numbered the people. And we know here, if you continue to read First Chronicles 21, lots of people died. Yah asked David, okay, what have you done? I have sinned, now I beg you, take away the guilt of your servant. But Yah asked him, what would he rather him do? He'd rather be at the mercy of Yah. Because we see what Hasatan can do. He'll trip you up, and then guess what? You have to pay for it with your own, out of your own pocket. You in debt. He indebts you. We see Job 1:6. Accuser. It says, and when the angels came to present themselves to Yah, and to Hasatan came also, the accuser. He came also. He came with them, and he said, where do you come from? Oh, roaming to and fro over the earth, he replied, walking back and forth in it, looking for somebody to devour. Oh, you tried my servant. Now, mind you, Job was blameless. A lot of us aren't. We see again the accuser. He boldly comes stand before Yah. When a person gossips, they standing before you as your opponent, as an arch enemy, looking to trip you up. Run. Run. Because then the first thing they'll do is throw you into two, huh? She said. Yah said, guard over the gates of my mouth. Set guard over my mouth. If it doesn't edify or build up, run. Then he showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the Melech of Yahuwah, and Hasatan standing at the right side to accuse him. Accuser, gossiping, you're accusing. Yahuwah said to Satan, Yahuwah rebuke you, Hasatan. Then Yahuwah, who had chosen Jerusalem, rebuke you. Is it not this man a burning stick snatched from the fire? Now Joshua was dressed in filthy clothes as he stood before the angel. And we know what Yah did. Let me go to the other part of it. Changed his clothes. Give him a clean garment. He says, okay. Then he said to now Joshua was dressed in filthy clothes as he stood before the angel. Then the angel said to those who were standing before him, take off his filthy clothes. Take them off. Make him righteous. The accuser wants to accuse. But when you are serving in the kingdom and following the commandments and doing as Yah has called you to do, yeah, we get dirty. We're going to get dirty. We're going to get dirty, but you stay in right standing. You obey the law, statutes, and commandments. You flee. Don't be one who brings a charge against another. Purge evil from amongst you. Purge the evil person from amongst you. We see what Yah did here. Then he said to Joshua, see, I've taken away your sins. He said, take off the filthy clothes. See, I've taken away your sins, and I'll put fine garments on you. Then I said, put a clean turban on his head too. So that they put a clean turban on his head and clothed him while the angel of Yahuwah stood by. The mind, we have to put on the mind of Hamashiach. Whatsoever is lovely, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is of good report, think on these things. Talk about these things. Again, let's be about our Father's business. 1 Corinthians 5:13 says to purge the evil person from among you. Deuteronomy 17:7 talks about the hand of the witness shall be the first person to put a person to death, because in the act of accusations, or of accusing, you're accusing this person for something to happen, right? And so a lot of times we look at the story in the woman caught in the in adultery. Remember, there's nothing new under the sun. Yeshua didn't come and do nothing new. He fulfilled the laws of the prophets and of the prophecy that was spoken of him. He didn't do nothing new. He reminded them what they were supposed to already know. They was trying to trip him up, right? And it says the scribes confront Yeshua, right? John 8:1-11. And Yeshua returned to the Mount of Olives, but early the next morning he was back again the temple. A crowd soon gathered, and he sat down and taught them. As he was speaking, the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. Accusers. Pharisees, religious law, wearing our tassels, wearing our tzitzits, wrapping our heads, accusing, caught her in adultery, and they brought her because they practice in the religion, but they brought the woman caught in adultery. We already talked about what love does, covers a multitude of sin, guards, protects, caught in it, and they put her in front of the crowd, exposed. They caught her in the act. She probably didn't have no clothes on. So exposed, uncovered. Rabbi, they said to Yeshua, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moshe says to stone her. What do you say? Okay. They have what? Malice, murder, contempt in their heart. All of these things are being exposed. So when we go around acting as an accuser, out of the abundance of our hearts, our mouths speak, our actions, right? They were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him. But Yeshua stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. They kept demanding an answer. He stood up again and said, all right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. When the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Yeshua was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. Then Yeshua stood up and said to the woman, "Where are your accusers? Did not even one of them condemn you?" No, Yeshua, she said. And Yeshua said, "Neither do I. Go and sin no more." Love covered. But this whole picture right here, right, is what he said. What he wrote in the sand was this. They were teachers and studying the law. He gave them the law. Can't trip me up. Deuteronomy 17:17 says, "The hand of the witness shall be the first to putting the person to death, and then the hands of all the people. Purge evil from among you." But going back to interpersonal relationships, see, a lot of us don't even know that we've been throwing stones, killing a woman, because we don't know these 10 here. The 10 Commandments says you don't bear false witness against your neighbor, right? You don't commit murder. So first of all, they were bearing false witness. They were lying. She might have been doing something, but it probably was a setup. Second of all, they were going to commit murder. But the person that brought her had to be the first one to commit the murder. Well, you don't murder, and so since they're Pharisees, they do not want to be guilty of breaking the law. And if they would have started stoning her and she ended up dead, then you're guilty of murder. Your hands are covered in blood is on your hands, right? So if they did this based on a lie, bearing false witness, then you have committed murder, false witness, and caused others to do so. Oops, gossip. Oops, accusing. Oops. Then you have committed murder, it's malice, false witness, and cause others to do so when you whisper. Diablos, wicked, acting as the accuser. Last one. Accusers. Gossiping. The root of gossip. Being used when you gossip. Fallen ones don't have a body to inhabit. They need a vehicle. They need somebody that they can use. Just like just like Yah has put his word in our heart and his ruach in us, so that we will proclaim to the nations who he is. That we are called to be the light and the salt, right? 2 Kings 17. They sold themselves to do evil. We see where Saul goes to the witch of Endor. I'm going to make sure I got that right one. Sorry. It's 1 Samuel 28. Now we know Samuel had died, so Saul disguised himself, and he went to find the woman who had a familiar spirit. Excuse me. She was a medium, and to go inquire her. This woman was a medium in Endor. So Saul disguised himself and put on his clothes and left, accompanied by 2 men, and came to the woman at night. "Use your ritual to conjure up for me the one I tell you." But the woman said, "Look, are you aware what Saul has done? He has removed the mediums and magicians from the land. Why are you trapping me so you can put me to death?" So Saul swore an oath by Yahuwah, using his name in vain, "And surely as Yahuwah lives, I will not incur guilt in this matter." The woman replied, "Who is it that you should bring up?" But again, the woman had a familiar spirit, right? And we talk about a familiar spirit or divination, witchcraft. It's that's where 2 Kings 17 comes in. They worshipped other elves. They followed the practices of the other nations. They sold themselves to do evil. So their reward, or the oracle of their reward, we look at our Hebrew Strong's 7081. They practiced divinations and sought omens and sold themselves to do evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, arousing his anger. So he removed them from his presence. I don't know. It's a lot. I'm going on. Bear with me. That did not tie into what I was trying to deal with. This is what I wanted to deal with. I'm sorry. Went to see the woman with the familiar spirit. Is it your Hebrew Strong's 178? A familiar spirit, idea or idea of the prattling of Father's name. Being a ventriloquist when you spread gossip, when you are available to be a vehicle. You are a ventriloquist. The ab is an empty vessel or a mumble, a water skin, and it's hollowed out for sound, right? You empty and you're being filled with gossip, something to accuse or to trip someone up or to grab them by the heel or to supplant them for an empty vessel filled with other spirits, right? Being controlled. So you're being controlled to mumble. And the word Ab is spelled, it sounds like Ab, like father, the strong ox leader, strength of the house, and the Bet. But in this particular instance, the Ab is the ox or the strength of the leader with a Wa, or to add. So it adds to the house. So the strong leader added something added to the house. And this is where that connecting, because we know a Vav or a Wa is a connector. It connects something. So it's like a necromancer, speaking dead things, vain things, things that are empty. And you're available for dead things. Gossip. Check our hearts, man. Really, really, really check our hearts. And so we see here where we are madder at other nations for following the recipe to the letter to keep us oppressed. Then we're madder at other nations that use the recipe given to them by Hasatan to keep us oppressed than we are at ourselves for failing to obey the law Yah handed to Moshe and the prophets to prosper us as a nation and to keep us in obedience to Yah. We were given instructions written by the finger of Yah, and we keep manipulating the order. I know it was long. But we need to purge the evil from amongst us. Sisters need to know that their hearts and their secrets and that we know that flowing from our hearts are the issues of our hearts. And a lot of us have been injured, and a lot of us are hurt, and a lot of us are going through things. But there should be a safe place in the community. And women, what does living in Torah look like? What does Yah say about gossip? This is what living in Torah looks like. This is what he says about gossip. This is what lit is. This is what living in Torah is. This is what this little light of ours is to shine. And it's not to lead people over the cliff, but to lead them to a rightful end, into, like Yah does. It leads us into green pastures. And he anoints our heads with oil. And he prepares a table before us in the presence of our enemies. And our enemies are there, and he holds them back. So that's what we have to do. We have to hold the enemies back. We have to remove them. We have to teach those that say they are lovers of Yah how to live and love and act in community. I know it was long. Again, like I said, disclaimer, y'all deals with me before I deal with anything and anybody else. Um, Email me, message me. I want to thank those that support me. I thank you for your prayers. I thank you for the text message you send me. You just don't know how encouraging it is. I go through a lot of battles daily, as we all do, but you just don't know how refreshing it is for a sister in Torah to tell me that I've encouraged them, that I said something that made them go deeper in their study, that they are watching, they're watching me. And it is such a charge, and it holds me accountable, not only to, I'm accountable first to Yah, but accountable to his kingdom, that you are paying attention to what it is Yah is giving me to say, because I don't feel worthy a lot of the times, but I know that as I continue to walk in obedience, like I said, I'm not perfect, but he perfects the vessel that he uses. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Pray for my family as they are on the road. Pray for Holda, pray for Yosh, pray for my baby girls, Jade and Ari and Lauren. And I wish I could be there to see and just love on some of you guys that I see online. But y'all didn't say the same this time. I gotta make that little money and pay some bills here. Again, I am grateful to share in the ministry with you all, to be a companion of you all on in the YouTube community, as well as to be a founder, or I'm not a founder, but a member of the ARC, and to be allowed by my moray to represent the ARC. So again, I love you all. Shalom.